As advertised, our all candidates forum for Mayor and Area D Director is starting at 6 o'clock. Our sponsor this evening is the Boundary Country Regional Chamber of Commerce, and joining us and assisting with the program, and one of the organizers is Alan Cooper. Could you raise your hand? Alan, thank you. My name is Michael Strukoff, and I will be the moderator this evening. And I'm going to go over the rules for tonight's all-candidate forum. Although we had requests for some changes, they're sticking to our guns, and that'll probably be a debate for a future all-candidates forum. Now, we did have a draw out in the foyer for speaking order. And so for Area D, the speaking order will be Irene Perepolkin, followed by Roly Russell, followed by Bob Kendel. Those will be a 2-minute opening remarks that our candidates have. Then we will move to a question period. Now, to assist in keeping our forum balanced and every candidate having equal opportunity to speak, there will be 2 minutes only that each candidate has for remarks, whether they're opening or closing. And Alan is going to assist with the timing. So at the 30-second warning, Alan is going to show a yellow folder, and I will have my little xylophone in case the candidate is looking at their notes and this is the folder. And at the 2-minute mark, then there'll be a red folder, and that's when we invite you to applause. And that will definitely be the signal that time is up. Now, I believe we have a representative from the media here this evening. Yes, we do, from the Gazette. And so we're going to give them an opportunity to ask some questions of the candidates each time. They'll have 1 minute, and candidates have 1 minute to answer the media. Then we'll open up the questions from the floor, and that's when any of you participants have an opportunity to ask a candidate a question. Candidates will be limited to 2 minutes, and again, we will have a yellow folder and a red folder, and on the red folder we invite you to applause, so they'll have to limit their answers to 2 minutes. What we are doing, though, is a little bit of a change-up. Often people ask, can we ask all the candidates the same question? And we're saying no. You have to pick one candidate to direct your question. You have to identify yourself when you're asking the question. But the candidates have the opportunity to do a rebuttal. Each candidate has up to 3 rebuttals. So for instance, if a question is directed at Roly Russell, he answers it, but Irene would like to answer that question as well, even though she wasn't asked. She can use one of her rebuttals and have a chance to answer that question as well, even though it wasn't directed at her. And people from the audience, you can ask a question to one candidate, then you have to sit down and then to someone else. Now, at the end of the session, when we probably are running out of questions or about an hour has passed, we will close the question period and we'll go to the closing statements from each candidate, and we go in reverse order. Now, I think that pretty well covers all of the rules we have. We do have microphones for questions from the floor, so if you are going to be asking, you need to come to the microphone, state your name, identify which candidate you're directing your question for so they're alert, and you have 1 minute to frame your question. I'm going to be firm about that simply because we want to hear as much as we can from the candidates, not position statements from the audience who is not running for election. So I think that pretty well covers the ground rules. We are ready to start. And I need to make one other introduction. Irene, could you just raise your hand to make sure everybody knows Irene? And sitting to Irene's right, your left, is her daughter, Nancy. And Nancy's here just to provide a little bit of assistance if there needs to be a little bit of clarification of some of the words. That's just to provide Irene a little bit of help because of some health issues she's had in the past. And I think we're all comfortable with that. Okay, so We're going to start with our 2-minute opening remarks, and I'm going to ask Irene to come to the podium.
Electors, I am Irene Perepolkin. I am born and raised in Area D, Grand Forks. I have worked with Area Jumea and Tony Loader. I have been working for a director of 6 years. My goals: to preserve the rural lifestyle of our area. Number 2 is ensure agricultural lands are intact. 3, preserve areas, sites, traditions, and artifacts. And number 2 is development support in Area D. Support area in Area D. I have a government leadership level 2 certificate, and now mediating skills. Thank you for your vote for me and for preserving my valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. The second candidate for the one position of Area D Director is Roly Russell.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We have a full crowd. That's nice to see. I think, I struggled with trying to figure out what to say up here because I think that we all kind of know what you want to hear, and so I don't want to spend too much time here, and I'd rather just get right into the questions. Just a couple points, I guess, to make clear that I've been doing this job for the last 22 months, and I've learned that I really enjoy it. I think I've done a very good job. I'm not going to belabor the things that I've accomplished, but at the back out on the table there's a list of some of the things that I have accomplished over the last 22 months, ranging from our community plan through to lobbying the province regarding the ALR changes and so on and so forth. I'm here because I really love this place and I want to make it better. And so I really feel like I can do the best job, and I look forward to hearing what kind of questions we have moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Roly. And our third candidate is Bob Kendel.
Good evening, and thanks for coming out this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob Kendel. I'm a transplanted farm boy from Saskatchewan. I'm foremost a family man, married to my wife Debbie for 34 years, and very proud of our children and our 3 grandsons. I've been an entrepreneur and businessman for most of my adult life and operate a heating and air conditioning company here in Grand Forks. We've lived in Area D for the past 9 years, and I've served on City Council for the past 3 years. My vision for Area D is to realize its potential, to take on the challenge of a leadership role to promote change and progress in this region. We need to showcase the potential of our area and to encourage growth that reflects our values. We all have similar reasons for loving this place and what makes it special to us, and how we would like to see things unfold in the future. We have a choice either to be led into the future or be responsible, take the lead, and create the future we want. Residents of Area D deserve to have a much greater impact on the social and economic future of the boundary. It is imperative that your representative have the political will, the courage, and the leadership to respect the past, put differences aside, and work cooperatively with our regional partners to chart the future for the entire boundary region. Residents of Area D have an obligation, no responsibility to elect a representative who has demonstrated the ability to bring people together, to listen, to be respectful, and have a vision for the future. I will bring the same commitment, work ethic, and success I've achieved in my past to my role as director of Area D. I would be proud to be your director for the next 4 years, and I'm asking for your support on November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to candidates, we do have microphones on the table, and so when we go into the question period, please use the microphones at the table. There's no need to come to the podium. We're going to start off by asking our media representative from the Grand Forks Gazette, and he'll share his name with us. And we have a little different rule for the media. He is allowed to ask all the candidates the same question, but he only can ask a few questions, and then he'll have to sit down. Okay, go ahead. You'll get it. Okay, try again.
Hello. Hi, it's Craig Lindsay with the Grand Forks Gazette. My first question to all of you, I guess more for Roly and for Irene. What are some of the things that you worked on in the past as directors with the RDKB through the Area D, and what do you think are some of the things that you've worked on that you'd like to see continue to work on and improve?
Okay, Roly, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Greg. So as I said before, I've got a little list at the back there of the things in the last 2 years that I've accomplished, and these include things like shepherding the community plan process from start to nearly finished, and I thank my APC and my OCP committee that helped work on that. I think a number of them are here. I think that the amount of collaboration between the city and Area D has improved significantly in the last 22 months. There's the Agricultural Land Reserve, Bill 24 came forward. I think I successfully lobbied for some of those changes to that legislation that were then changed, and I'm happy about that. The animal control bylaw, which is clearly a contentious issue, which was what I jumped right into, and I think that was cleaned up significantly for a lot of people that were concerned and listening to that feedback. And again, I could go on, but I assume I'm getting close to the end of my minute.
One year ago, so I'm a little bit slow with this. So I had preserved heritage sites, and I had just all helpful, and Nancy just a little bit helped me.
She also brought Saddle Lake into a provincial park, trying to preserve some of our natural habitat.
We had to
we also got a lot of funding for Toba School. And also preserve the flour mill.
And this is for Bob, and if you can answer. You worked with City Council and moving on to Area D. How would you work together with the city to make the whole area stronger?
Hope this is on, okay. Well, I think having spent the last 3 years on City Council, it gives me a unique perspective as to how important these relationships are. We need to have an ongoing, open discussion about where we, as a community, as a valley, want to go. We can't have two different perspectives going two different directions and to hope for any meaningful success. So I think it's just creating an open dialogue, having meaningful discussions, and picking one or two issues that we can work collectively towards.
Roly or Irene, you want to pick
I would just add, I think that it's important to recognize the complexity of economic development in our area, and I think going forward without an active, collaborative kind of environment between the city of Grand Forks and the rural Grand Forks area is kind of a non-starter. But I think that it's a big challenge figuring out how we move forward proactively and efficiently without just picking specific projects and moving those forward, but recognizing the complexities of what economic development really means in terms of economic development financially and socially and environmentally.
And then I'll direct this at Bob, but it's for everybody as well. You mentioned change in your introduction. You mentioned change and growth. What do you think needs to be changed or should be changed? And I guess for all of you, would you like to see growth in Area D, and what kind of growth?
Well, I think the number one factor, the thing that is compelling me to run for Area D is that Area D has the potential, the power, I'm trying to think of the right verbiage, but we have the ability to be a significant voice in what happens in this valley. And I think in the past, Area D has remained kind of passive. And I think that we can definitely step up and take a larger leadership role on how we want to proceed, what's important, and take those agendas and speak to the city and our other regional partners to come up with a solution to what we want to see for growth, what are our values, but we need to have that conversation, and we need to take a leadership role to get there.
Irene?
I agree with that. I think those are good comments that Bob had. I think three of the issues that are important to me are figuring out how we do a better job of getting our agricultural lands into production, which means a lot of focus on small lot agriculture. And then secondly, figuring out how we capitalize on making the most of those lands, and so value-added processing and so on, and removing the barriers that exist at this point for those small businesses and so on to make the most out of their 5 acres or their 10-acre production systems on those properties. And I think that from that comes diversity of small businesses lead to a much more resilient and stable economy given the kind of global landscape right now. So I think if we can actually see that those businesses thrive, we're going to be in a much better position moving forward.
Not saying it properly. People have the abilities to have the I can't say this one, sorry.
That's all the questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're opening the questions from the floor. I had one gentleman that came down earlier. This is a good time for you to come down again. And anybody else that's thinking of a question for one of our candidates, please come forward as well. Remember to introduce yourself and identify the candidate you're directing your question to. Okay, go ahead.
Well, my name is Sean Messi. I've been living here for 31 years, and even with my French accent, sometimes go around. I have come from a friend of mine, coming and visiting me, around this area, and the thing was the most flagrant thing is all the dirt was beautiful. Okay. Oh no, we have rocks. But they stay their place, okay? My question is why we don't use all that beautiful dirt we have around? They're trying to expand the city a little bit, they're trying to get the nice, really nice that's glacier dirt. It's more than we can dream about.
Okay. So who are you asking this question of?
I will ask that to Mr. What's his name again? Roly. Okay. Why Rana or Roly? You know, why they want to expand the city and try to get all that beautiful earth, okay, instead using it.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. I guess from my perspective, I don't sense that the city is overly zealous in terms of their expansion plans, at least as far as I'm aware of. There may be other information on the horizon, but I think that the reason that we see so much good agricultural land is not in production is barriers that are associated with infrastructure and barriers that are associated with education. So there's a lack of basically apprenticeship between existing farmers that know what they're doing and young people that want to get into farming. And there's a lack of availability of tools for those small lots again, because it's not financially viable to operate those. So I think that local government, there's a potential there to help not remove those barriers, but bring them significantly lower down so that we do see more of those productive lands in active use.
No, excuse me, sir, no follow-up questions. Is there any other candidate that'd like to pick up on this? Okay, Bob?
Yeah, to answer your question, having just come from City Council, I can assure you that the city doesn't have any plans on expanding out into the regional district. Agricultural land, the small lots, it's very, I think it's directly related to just the economic viability of a small plot. We can have the ideal that it's a great thing to have, and we should encourage using those agricultural lands for production. But for a young family, the reality at this point is that there doesn't appear to be, as far as I know, an economic driver, an economic end result to allow them to go there and make a living on 5 acres. And I think we need to actively pursue what can be done. What are some unique and new ideas that can give them the opportunity to move to a small acreage and make a living? And I think that's the key.
Thank you. Irene, I think wants to get into this one as well.
Hello. There also is a very big problem with equipment around here. This area is very difficult for getting equipment, and we also have an issue with irrigation. Our irrigation district is full to capacity. There is no more water. We have to figure out how to bring in more water in order to use this land.
Thank you. You want to use again, Roly? Okay.
I get to use my rebuttal for myself. I would have to respectfully disagree with you, Bob. I think that if you look at agriculture around the province, some of the most productive agricultural ventures occur on lots of less than 5 acres. And those are those very labor-intensive but very small-scale production systems like mushroom growing or greenhouse production. And so the data out there show that there is a lot of capacity to do a lot of good production. You're not going to be producing hay on 5 acres, but the real kind of value-added agriculture, there is capacity there for that.
Gentleman on my left.
My name is Barry Brendo. My question is to Roly Russell. If you are a square-up Area D representative this time, Roly, will you encourage democratic process to deal with issues important to our community? Will we finally start incorporating transparency and accountability in issues? In other words, are we going to get some of these damn issues out of the shadows and away from personalities? I know it's a tricky one, important one to me.
Thank you for the question, Barry. Absolutely. I think in the last 22 months, I've been struggling with trying to work in that direction. So taking grant and aid policy, for example, which I know is contentious, And there's an extreme lack of transparency there in terms of people, if you're not at the meetings, if you're not in contact with those directors, you don't even know who's applied for those funds. So you don't know who's been refused. You only find out who's getting them. And so my steps in terms of increasing transparency on those sorts of fronts have been to help lobby the RDKB to develop policy on those grounds, and as well just on my personal front, trying to be a lot more transparent and communicative with the electorate in terms of what actually is going on, because people aren't going to go and read those minutes after those meetings.
Anybody else want to kick in on that? No? Okay, lady on my right.
My name is Karen McKay, I'm with the Area D, and I live in the Area D, and my question is for Irene. I understand that the regional district has been paying for 2 directors for the past 2 years. I also understand that the regional district assured you that you could come back to work at any time as soon as you felt you could resume your duties as Area D director. I'm unclear as to why you would tell people that they would not allow you to come back, and unclear as to why you did not go back, seeing as you were being paid to do so. Do you think it's okay for the Area D to continue to pay 2 directors, especially when you're not doing your job?
First of all, there was no double pay. That was a false statement that should have been corrected. They are getting paid under one salary. She is getting her basic living allowance. Roly Russell is getting paid for going to meetings. John McLean is one of the reasons why Irene is not back at work. So you will have to take up that question with him. Thank you.
No, you've been waiting much longer than he has.
Hi, my name is Irene Perepolkin, and I live in Area D. And this actually is a question for Mr. Kendel. I wanted to know, in light of the changes that are coming down for the Agricultural Land Commission, how you plan to continue to protect our Area D small properties and large properties from being engulfed by subdivisions.
I think that my understanding of what's come down from the Agricultural Land Commission is we've been designated as a Area 2. And what that is it allows the regional district to just consider alternative uses for farmland. They are still in the LR, but it gives us the ability to not, the LR rules are very specific. If it doesn't meet this criteria, it cannot come out of the LR. What they've done in certain areas of the province is given the local authorities the ability to look at different scenarios on a case-by-case basis and make good, sound decisions about whether there's a reason to move forward and get some land out of the LR. But it isn't just an open book as to getting land out of the LR and developing it.
Roly's exercising another one of his rebuttal.
Yeah, just to add to that, because that's one of the issues that I was actively lobbying along with a number of other people in the community, lobbying against the provincial government for some of those changes. And initially, the way that legislation was drafted said that in terms of making decisions, the Agricultural Land Commission had to take into account, for Zone 2, as Bob has pointed out, so that's the rest of the province other than the Lower Mainland, had to take into account both agricultural outcomes and economic outcomes and social outcomes and a few other pieces on that list, which of course is how any decision at the local government level has to take place, and presumably any decision at the provincial level. And so one of the pieces that I lobbied in terms of talking with Minister Letnick about that, the second ag minister that came in, was to say there needs to be a prioritization there so that agriculture comes first and then those other values. And so those changes were made in that legislation. And so now what it means is that if you apply for non-farm use for those areas, they're able to take into account those other aspects of why you might be wanting to enter into a non-farm use arrangement, and that decision could take place at the province or on a more regional level. Thank you.
Grace, the gentleman behind you had just sat down. He was resting. Maybe.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Russell.
And you are?
My name is Eric Gillette. Some time ago I phoned Irene. She was off due to medical reasons. I talked to Roly. My phone call, you said you were very busy at that particular moment and that you would call me back within 15 minutes or half an hour. That was 22 months ago. I'm still waiting for the call. My question is, are you going to continue to work at such a rapid pace?
Thank you for the question. An absolutely fair point. So, to be clear, 22 months ago, we got the call from Nancy to ask me to step in, and at that point, I was in a position where I was working full time at my own jobs, and my position was meant to be a temporary replacement. And so I stepped into this position always with this understanding that at some point in the immediate future, I wouldn't necessarily be here. And so for the last 22 months, I've been in this state of uncertainty about how long I'm in the position. And so I've been trying to manage both my existing workload and being a reasonably decent parent and the workload that's associated with this job, which from my perspective, to do a good job is a full-time position. And so I have been extremely overburdened for the last 22 months, and I apologize for not getting back to you. But I think sitting up here now, I'm eager to move forward with the social license from the electorate to be able to say, yes, we want you to do this job, and to be able to actually plan my time so that I know that I have this position for the next 4 years and can do an even better job for you guys.
And this question would be directed to Mr. Kendel. In light of the Kettle River Watershed Management Plan that has just been released, what would be some of your ideas for water conservation in Area D?
Yes, water conservation is something that is up to each one of us. It's really difficult to mandate conservation. I think that the irrigation district gives us some guidelines to go by, and I think it's just social responsibility. I don't think that any regional director or anyone else can make anyone do anything. It becomes a personal thing for all of us to just be good stewards of our resources.
Okay, well, that's your last one, by the way.
I figured I may as well. Thank you for the question. I think that as the chair of that watershed management, the stakeholder advisory group that's been contributing to that plan, I think some of the pieces that are most, there's the greatest potential for increased efficiency there has to do with things like low-till agriculture and relatively new agricultural technologies for our area that are not new for other places. And the barrier there, from my perspective, is education, so people are not aware and they need to be able to see how those processes work. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm really eager to see development somewhere in our area of some demonstration kinds of agricultural projects so that we can show farmers, and especially new farmers or old farmers that are looking for new ways to do things, show farmers how they can accomplish things with less water, for example, and be more productive. And those technologies are certainly there, but they need to be demonstrated in order for them to be adopted.
Okay, Grace, microphone's yours.
Yeah, this is a bit tough, but I need to clarify an issue. There has been 2 directors paid for in Area D. And Roly, I'll direct this with you. Did you not work for the first few months without getting paid? And also, the regional district has made it very clear through a letter that Irene could come back to work at any time. And I believe that it would be unfair for people to think otherwise. So, Roly.
Thank you. From when I first came into the position, I was a typical alternate position would be not remunerated for anything other than actually attending meetings. So that includes the mileage costs and so on and so forth. So for the first while, and I don't remember at this point whether it was a month and a half or a couple months, I did the job essentially as a volunteer, and then at that point I made it clear that it was to be working full-time at this position I was unable to continue to do that, and the regional district made an arrangement whereby both Irene and myself were receiving the director's stipend, which is the monthly sum of funds that you receive for doing this job. So absolutely, and I think was there a second part of your question that I missed there? Oh, sorry, just to clarify too. My understanding has always been that as soon as Irene was ready and feeling able and willing to come back to work, that I would no longer be in the job. And so for the last 22 months, I never knew how much longer I would be in that position.
I think John reflected a little bit on this, so I'm going to let Nancy know.
To our knowledge, I had no idea that you were getting paid in full. The last time that I had talked to John, that you were getting paid for the meetings and meetings only. Okay, that's my fault, sorry. John never informed me of anything different. That's what we went on. They had put Irene through many different things. Every time she tried to come back, she was refused to be let to meetings. She had tried to go to meetings and they wouldn't let her. I don't know what to say any further. She had tried to go back to her job many times.
Thank you for that question, Grace. Grace McGregor is the Regional Director for Area C, Christina Lake. She's been re-elected by acclamation, and I believe currently she is the Chair of the Regional District Board. Okay, next question.
My name is Monique Van Newick. I live here in Grand Forks, one of the City Council candidates. I actually have many questions for Roly, but I had to narrow it down to one. You say you see a future in agriculture. We're a border town, perfect for importing and exporting. Grand Forks has a history of being Canada's #1 seed supplier because our plants come to seed very quickly. There's a huge demand for GMO-free seeds, organic foods. Do you see a future here?
Thank you for the question. Absolutely, I think it's important. I think probably a lot of you have seen the YouTube excerpt from the National Film Board video from 60 or 70 years ago that was focused on that seed export business. I think that the economic environment that we're in is very, very different than it was at that point, and so thinking that we will be able to reinstate that, I think is not necessarily that reasonable. But understanding that we do live in a fairly unique climate for a lot of those productions, and I think production systems. And so, for example, looking at the nurseries, we have some extremely successful nursery systems here, and that has everything to do with the climate that we're in. So I absolutely see that there's a future for those types of high-value agricultural products, and that's what I think that I would like to see happen. I sit on the provincial board for the Organic Certification Committee, and so or Board of Canada or BC, and so through that, I obviously feel like there's a future for organic production, and there's that's a big conversation to get into.
Hamilton, James Hamilton. I'll address my question to Roly Rankin, is it?
Roly Russell.
Russell, sorry. Roly. Councillor Kendel in the past has voted for something along the lines of water control, which is, we know his position on this, and I'm trying to find out your position. So the Agenda 21 has been very strong in controlling water and bringing in something, any kind of law that will restrict the use of water and make it better somehow. Now, in the Councillor Kendel voted for fines of minimum fines of $1,000 per day, or up to maximum fine of $10,000. $10,000 per day.
Mr. Hamilton, you have to find the question here.
Okay, so here's the question. If or when this comes to this area, will you vote for such draconian fines to be imposed upon the people, or will you go against that? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would hope that my answer would be no. I wouldn't be such a draconian decision maker. But I understand that these are complicated issues at the city council table as well. We live in a area D, has a very different set of demands placed upon them. And we do not have the same sort of infrastructure systems that you have in the city. And so those kinds of decisions would look very differently. So that would be up to irrigation districts, for example, that are on those water systems. Whereas anyone at Area D on the broad level, from the regional district perspective, we have jurisdictions where people that predominantly draw water from wells. And so one thing that comes to mind is a quote. It's attributed to Einstein, but it wasn't actually Einstein. I forget the guy's name. But he said, "Not all that counts, and not all that can be counted counts, and not all that counts can be counted." And I think that the reason I like that is because it identifies that if we know what we're doing with our resources, we can do a better job of managing those resources.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on what the questioner brought up was one small part of a bylaw that deals with a much larger issue than just fines. It is a small part of what needs to be done to control and to utilize a utility in any city. I'm not in favor of fining anyone for anything, but there are rules, and anytime that you have a utility and people using it, you need to have some rules and some deterrent against breaking those rules, and that's all that was about.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Christine Alsacer, and my question is for Roly. Earlier this evening you talked about the need for transparency, and I understand that during the time you've been appointed as a regional director, you've also sat as the chair, I think you indicated, for the steering committee of the Kendel Watershed Committee, and I'm just wondering if you can tell me how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent on that plan that's been worked on, and also where an interested person might be able to actually find the budget that has supported that planning process.
It's a very good question. From my understanding, because those were decisions that I kind of came into halfway along, I think that, and again, I would have to go back and look at the budgets to identify how much we actually have paid into that. But I believe we would be looking at the order of $250,000. Again, I would have to go back and check those budgets. The budgets themselves, for example, if you're interested in looking at the first drafts of the budget for this next year, just came in front of us at the board table at our regional district meeting this last month. And so if you go online, it's very easy to track down the agenda packages for those. And the budget in its full hundreds of pages glory is all there to have a look at. I think a more exciting piece of that to talk about is the implementation phase of that plan, which as we move forward, going into next year, we're moving into that implementation phase. And when we go over there, what we have agreed is that we pay a very small amount of money for kind of core funding for our consultant, and then we receive grants and so on to bump that up to a full-time position so that we can continue to make sure that those plan outcomes are actually implemented. And I think it's particularly important to make note, I guess, that those funds are either entirely or very nearly entirely all from gas tax dollars. So those are not local tax requisition dollars that have gone into funds. They absolutely are tax dollars, yes, and I frankly think it's a good use of our tax dollars.
My name is Christine, and my question is directed towards Irene. I'm just looking for clarity on the upcoming 4 years, if Irene would be able to continue to do the position herself, or she would always need to have Irene to follow with her because Nancy, because Nancy seems to answer some of the questions for Irene. So would you be traveling to all of the things with Irene and be answering the stuff for her, or is Irene actually able to do the job solely herself?
I will be doing it right because I can do the trail and everything else. And
it was more so tonight because these are questions that she's put onto the spot and can't right away say it.
But I can say it like I can read it and everything else. I can all that stuff. But I can do that. Okay. Okay.
Okay, last call for questions from the floor. Okay, seeing that there aren't any, I'm going to give the heads up to the candidates that we're going to proceed now to our closing statements, and it's going to be in reverse order, so it'll be Bob Kendel, Roly Russell, and then Irene will be the third speaker. So our timer is ready. They have 2 minutes. Yellow is the 30-second warning. Bob.
Thank you, Michael. In closing, I think this is the time for Area D to embrace the fact that we can and will be an integral part of the future of the boundary. We need to take the lead and create the future we want. I believe that to achieve lasting success, we need to look at the big picture. What kind of legacy do we want to leave for future generations? These are questions not easily answered, but we need to recognize and respect the past, but have the political will to move forward. We need to be committed, resourceful, and creative to chart a plan for the future. My goals for Area D for the next 4 years are, number one, to make it my priority to create a great working relationship with all of our regional partners, to raise the profile of Area D, to have a greater influence on the social and economic future of the Boundary region, the promotion of agricultural initiatives, and to play an active role in promoting regional economic development. Finally, my goal is to be accessible and accountable to you, the electorate, to make informed decisions for the common good with no personal agenda. Leadership, commitment, hard work, and proven success, these are attributes that I will bring to Area D as your director. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 15th. Together we can do great things, and together we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And Roly Russell.
All right, thank you, everybody. This is my continuation of my response to the question from Mr. Gillette, I believe it was. And given that I didn't exactly ask to be in this position 22 months ago, and I want to make an active choice to be here now. This is a poem by Mary Oliver. The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who was eating sugar out of my hand, who was moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who was gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Tell me, doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I think that I can do a good job of being open to input, being collaborative, being fair, and being transparent moving forward for the next 4 years. I have the experience and skills to do this, and I have the motivation and the capacity to do this. I really do love this place, and I look forward to your support in helping me to make it better.
Thank you, Roly. And our final speaker is Irene Perepolkin.
Thank you. Thank you for voting for me for this year and the next 4 years. And please, thank you for preserving our valley, Area D. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates. It's always a courageous choice to run for public office. Appreciate the risk that you take in bringing yourself forward for the electorate. November 15th is polling day, and all candidates are running for 4-year terms. So thank you, candidates for Area D Director. We're going to take a 10-minute break.